debt, where you figure out yourself, which is much better, by the way. Discovering your learning curve so you have the courage and the knowledge to recognize what business are we really in, right? Are we in the parent business? Are we in the SEO business? Are we in the cards business? I don't know. Your knowledge has to climb in such a way that when this happens, when Facebook shows up or when Facebook crashes, whatever it is, you recognize it so you can jump and bet the whole company with enough agility to capture those massive opportunities if they happen. And what I learned was, when I asked about, it's okay, what I learned was, in my interviews, I asked this question, I did not write about this. I said, what percentage of your outcome was pure luck as an entrepreneur? And they said 70% across the board. Yeah. I mean, think about that for a second. Yeah. It's astonishing. It's loss aversion. You're like gamblers. We're all gamblers, right? You know, presented with the Moneyball ticket for $500 million, the one for $1 million lottery ticket, what are we going to take? We're going to take the Moneyball ticket. That's what we do, which is actually a stupid decision, right? Because we want to always do the thing that have the highest probability because luck is typically the reason why we have those massive outcomes. You're in business to create a single or a double. A single is economic oxygen, you don't die, fantastic. A double is you make shitloads of money, right? The triples, the home runs have almost literally nothing to do with you. That's it. And it's typically nothing too mysterious about what you're doing because in about 20 years your kids will like say, hey Dad, how'd you make, or Mom, how'd you make money? You're like, well I sold, you know, I was the Craigslist for moms for schools. I sold restaurant menus. I created guidance counselors 3.0. They'll be like, oh, that's interesting. There's nothing exotic about what you're doing now. It's going to be totally obvious then. The point is, like, can you actually create economic oxygen or not? Okay? All right, last thing, deep thoughts. Next slide. Is that beware of really cheap advice. Okay? This advice, quite frankly, is cheap. You don't know me. I'm lying. I could be faking it. I could do this. Frank, what's the name again? Okay. Yeah. The point is that I hate Pepsi. It's just beware of like cheap advice. Like mentors are nice and boards are nice when they're structural, but the reality is like you're gonna have to go through this alone. Whether you raise the best VC money or none, this journey is like almost completely yours. And there's a great story about Steve Jobs about 10 years ago. He's in his conference room, and there's a garbage pail full of garbage. He goes and finds the janitor, and he brings him back, and he says, "Why is there garbage in my garbage pail?" And the janitor says, "I'm sorry, Mr. Jobs. Mr. Jobs is not a nice guy, as you guys have read his book. He goes, I'm sorry, but the locks were changed, and I couldn't get into change garbage." And so he calms down and he said, "That is a good reason. Don't let that happen again." He goes away. This is set up for the bigger story. At Apple, there's like 70,000 employees. There's 55,000 retail. There's like 15, 20,000 in the corporation itself. It's got 70 VPs, 6 SVPs, and a COO. It's the flattest of flat organizations you can imagine at scale. And when somebody becomes a VP, it's like becoming a field general. In fact, it's harder to become a VP than to become a general manager. And so when that happens, that person goes into Steve Jobs' conference room, and he tells them the story of the garbage in the conference room. And then he tells them this, is that somewhere between the janitor and the CEO, reasons don't effing matter. They just don't matter. Like, that's what the buck stops here. It means it literally doesn't matter. You completely own 100% of the outcome. Whether a tornado wipes out your business, or I had a business lost by Hurricane Katrina, what does it matter? The point is like, you own it. And until you get that, this won't help you. Okay? This is more personal, and I swear this is actually the last slide. Is that, one, is I really strongly believe it's more personal. It's actually in the book too, but we won Humanities Lottery. Really, we're very, 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 very fortunate that we get to like build companies, even when it's painful. Like, it's just dumb luck. We should be, born, 1,000 years ago, walking 6 miles a day for water. You talk to the Endeavor group in Linda Rottenberg. You go around the world, which I've had the chance to do, 42 countries, and it's incredible. They have nothing. No, they don't have the same knowledge we have. They don't have 300 plus hours of advice coming that we all benefit from. They don't have mentors. They're literally on their own, and they're amazing entrepreneurs. They built massive companies you've never even heard of in the middle of Chile, in the middle of Argentina. It's just phenomenal. And they're better than us because they have less. And so we're very, very fortunate, and that gratefulness is to pour into the companies we do. Number 2 is don't suffer from the sin of comparison. This is very important because if your company is suffering because you're watching your competitors' press releases or their products, like you're just distorting the whole purpose of building a company. You have to build your own company. Your employees have to be free to build something with their own risk taking. Forget the outside noise. If you knew it was 70% luck, what would you build? And that comparison can really bend and shape and build and hurt companies as much as it can help them. So I just think it's a very, very dangerous idea when you protect the company from. And you, as a CEO, you can either accentuate that or extinguish it. Focus on only your innate gifts. That is actually the power of you and your company is only do what the company should do relative to how you actually form it and make it from your gift. And when you violate that, you chase white space, you actually dilute the effectiveness of it. You actually decrease the probability of being successful if you try to like copy your competitors because you're copying things that aren't you. It needs to be an original invention. And when you get outside the original invention, you get in a dangerous place, and the probability of success goes down. The last thing is I told the Steve Jobs story, but I'll share one other story, which is this thing called the 7-to-1 rule. And about the last 3 companies, I've been instituting this in all my companies because I have, large organizations around the world, in London and India and China, everywhere. And what they don't, the danger of the company is that it's so stupidly hard to do it that you're inevitably going to fail. And as the CEO, I don't want to be up in front leading a company with like the emperor's new clothes on or the emperor's new clothes, right? I don't want to not be understood and known. So you have to recognize that people, product, and data are going to fail, right? You're just going to, I'm going to fail you, you're going to fail me. But you need a way to address those problems very directly, honestly, but you have to forgive each other and move on. You need wind at your back. And the easiest way to kill your company or marriage is contempt. You have to protect your people from hurting each other, whether it's the unspoken words in their mind or they're acting on it in life. And that's the 7-to-1 rule. We try to do 7 times as much good as we do bad. And when we fail each other, we address it, we forgive each other, and we move forward. Okay? So when I come after you, you're not going to crumble, right? Because our job is to fix it, you to improve, me to improve, and move forward. And if you're not actually extinguishing that contempt in their company or your marriage, it's the surest way to add incredible friction and, again, create wind in your face. And you can't afford not to. And so I want to share those things with you because, yeah, reasons don't matter, absolutely. But listen, it's not a perfect world. Apple's a very sick culture. Okay? It worked because you had a magical person there. But the company itself, not so healthy because of that idea. Okay? The 7-to-1 rule is a balance of that, which is recognizing that we are not perfect, but we have to have high expectations of it. If it gets in a strange ratio 3 or 4, we should address it. You're going to find yourself quickly out of the company. Because I showed you that chart, like you are Mr. and Mrs. right now, you will be stepping out at courage and decision, at hard decision ones. But when you're doing those type of ratios, you can have a story outcome. So, anyways, it's important to make money, and I have found that a lot of the companies that are most successful do it not for money, but because their purpose is the greed. That they're doing something totally extraordinary, and the purpose behind it is actually the money and all that stuff follows the scale, the greed of the long-term value and purpose. And so I hope that your companies and some of these lenses help redefine what business you're in, right? And it's not how big this can be, but how big the purpose can be, because that should be the greed. So that's it. Thank you.
Take some questions for 2 minutes.
Or none. It is late, oh my gosh. Any questions? Sorry, go ahead.
Those profiles you went through, the people that are pretty interesting with all the bullets at the bottom, is that in the book?
Yeah. Yep, all there. Yep. And there's so much more, that's just like the skimming services tax. Go ahead.
I know you were, thanks for coming out, number one. You're unique.
It is very, very cold out, and I walked here. It's like Anchorage cold. I'm Aaron, I'm never, this is it, this is the last time. Every couple of years, it's like, maybe.
Well, I'm glad I'm getting you then, because
Yeah.
you're in a unique position to answer this. Let's just presuppose that you believe in a person's idea and stuff like that.
Yep.
As an angel, one, what do you think that you would have to have for a new company, a new startup, for reach, the amount of reach and the amount of uniques and return users to get your attention? And 2, before you get someone else's attention who's like, let's blow a bazooka right through them because they're a competitor now.
I don't know if I answered the second one. The first part of the question, I mean, every business has its own unique, metrics. And so you need to make sure they're not going to say vanity metrics. They need to be core metrics. So I have the skill to recognize if those metrics actually are meaningful or not. Like, I can give a crap about uniques. I really do. I mean, maybe it's some magical engagement number that actually leads to an economic outcome. So what I have to do is just get some people who actually knew that business really well to say that those metrics are the most important ones. So on its face, I mean, big glowing things don't necessarily mean you have a good business. Because it's almost like there's always an undercurrent, a torque of truth on the data that actually drives the business. And so you really have to get underneath that. So before I made an investment, yes, there's a talent marketplace thing, but you'd have to actually understand if those things are true or not. And investors there's no dumb money, by the way. There just doesn't exist. I mean, you can get crappy money, you get smart money. It just, those people, they really do investigate and understand this stuff. So, anyways, back.
Yeah, phenomenal, unbelievable. So when you went through the founder profiles,
yep.
A lot of them were, each founder is obviously very unique. So as a young entrepreneur, I'm trying to absorb everything, but some of them are like so unique that, like for example, Reed, super patient guy. But Elon Musk, dives right in, or will bet everything on it, or make what might seem like more of a bigger gamble. So, what's your advice for, do you suggest just absorbing all of it and find where you relate, or I don't know, you know what I'm trying to ask?
I think so. I think, well, first of all, don't set a comparison, because those are the greatest entrepreneurs living today. Right. The probability you're them is very low. I'm not them. I'm thankful I know them, but I'm not them. I mean, listen, if I had 7% more luck, you take my exits and do this. And yeah, I mean, it's fun to think about those sort of things. But the reality is that, we just say this. I think I would go back to the #1 thing, which is innate. If I was going to bet my life on anything, it would be, what is your innate gift? That's this whole self-awareness thing, to know thyself. And everything that's not innate, quit it. Because you literally, your time, energy, you can't afford not to. You got to create that unique, best in the world thing, and then let that become whatever it's going to become. That's the journey. It's not really this company is me, and my whole identity is this company. It's the journey, the 10,000-hour journey of becoming that innate thing you're supposed to be, right? So I would really hyper focus and try to understand what that is, and forget the comparison things, forget how big this could be. Your business instincts will take over and monetize this stuff. But if you allow those instincts to crowd out the innate gift thing, you actually damage the potential. Okay? So focus there, no matter what. Yeah.
At what point do you advise entrepreneurs to, maybe file for patents or even provisional patents, talk to investors, because you have to start disclosing some, proprietary data and algorithms and things. So, what do you suggest?
Well, I mean, I don't personally believe in patents. I mean, I think that they're massive. I don't want to invest in a company that's going to invest in patents. I mean, in fact, Elon doesn't even file them anymore. He's always going to do is tell the Chinese how to make a grasshopper rocket. What's the point? Telegraph what you're going to do. Like, your IP is your culture. It's your company. It's the trust. Like, that's the IP. I mean, with the exception of this one thing, which is like, if you actually have something that you could actually be 10 times better in the world, and because your execution is magical to you, that might be worth patenting. But everything else, forget it. Your job is to like create a heartbeat and consume economic oxygen so you stay alive. Like, I would not spend cycles, intellectual cycles doing that. I spend your intellectual cycles trying to figure out how you're going to make money so you don't die. Sorry.
Okay, so you and another person gave me or the audience the same advice. Well, know which business you are in.
Yep.
And I think I heard ditch the investors. If you can do it yourself, if you don't need investors, it would be better. Did you say that at a certain point?
I don't know if I said that, but I think you got to recognize that only 1% of companies think they're venture-backed companies. And only that 1% of companies truly are venture-backed worthy.
Okay.
And of that 1%, like 0.01 raise more than a couple $1 million. So if you're you're way out. And like, I just think that relative to the amount of time it takes someone to convince you to put money in, if you just build your company, you get in a better spot and you're worth out anyways. It's kind of like, let the attraction of the investor interest be the merit of the business.
Do you have both experiences?
Yeah,
you have
totally.
companies that you had investors and companies that you didn't have
Yes.
investors?
In fact, I'm not taking any of that.
What's the difference in
Well,
your experience?
not having investors is harder,
Okay.
honestly. It's a grind.
Uh-huh.
Having investors is also a grind, but you probably are hungry. So, I mean, it's just a totally different thing. I mean, when you have a lot, you raise a lot of strategic money or venture money, it's like running a publicly traded company without the benefit of having publicly traded shares. I mean, there's 60, 70-page decks, board meetings every month. It's like pain. I can't begin to tell you. Raising venture money is like, it's just like putting a knife in your lung and trying to run. I'm serious. I mean, and I love my investors, but like that is what it's like.
You just said this idea, this concept of what you build, your company, your people, how it works, that's your IP.
Yep.
But obviously it's actually building a product. That suggests you believe you can have a dream within the dream.
No, the product pours out of those things. It's kind of like a model that I call the Thrive model. If your people thrive, then your products thrive, then your customers thrive, and your investors thrive as well for that. But if you can't get them to thrive, they typically don't invent well. And the invent well doesn't pour into customers who find value and pay you. Then it's like a waterfall effect. Where? Go ahead.
So can you just talk about your thoughts on the startup culture? And I think you were saying create products that are sort of like painkillers,
Yeah.
versus the
Vitamins?
underlying goal being to create a product or service that improves the quality of lives, like people's lives.
Well, I mean, you can have a painkiller that increases the quality of life, right? So I think I'm trying to draw a distinction. It's purely a lens, okay? So you're building a company and you don't want to die, right? Entropy, right? It's win, right? You need to get to a place to create economic oxygen. The whole point of building a company is so you can create value. Economic value creates more value in the marketplace. You can't create economic value. I don't care how, whether it's $1 billion users or $1 billion, it doesn't matter. The point is that you're on a road to zero. The arc of the company starts and it ends. You raise venture capital, the arc goes a little further out. If you can actually create something that creates value that someone pays for, it doesn't go down, right? Your job is to make the arc go up. So listen, if you're going to sell a painkiller, it's purely a metaphor. It's a lens to say, who am I actually creating a drug for that's in pain and would pay me to get out of pain? A vitamin is something that makes you feel good. Some people do it religiously. Very few people do. They try, they start, and stop it. You know, a drug, you're not going to chronic arthritis. You're not going to stop taking the drug, right? If you have cancer, you take it once, and that has a high churn rate, right? That's also not necessarily a good business, which is why you charge so much for it, because the churn rate is so high. We want to be in a business where the churn rate's low, the ACV is high, and it keeps customers for a very long time. And the point is just, how are you a painkiller? I'm a painkiller because my guidance counselor sucks, and the school doesn't have those resources, and I want my kids to have the best future they possibly have. And I want them to know it when they're in 8th grade going to 9th grade, because I know when I take my kid to go to a Tier 1 Ivy League campus and see what it takes to get into Cornell or Penn, whatever it is, they realize that if I don't work hard and plan my future, doors are going to shut. It's insurance. It's insurance. The greatest customer acquisition channel you could possibly have is to give free tours for kids and their parents to go visit college campuses. Honest to God, I bet that's true. I bet if you do that, and you come back in a year with a data behind it, I will bet you dollar for dollar that's the best thing to do is experience. Catch the dream, buy the insurance. It's not acquisition, it's not SEO.
Are you going out for drinks with us later?
No, I gotta go home. I have 3 kids. I like literally last 2 nights like 4 hours sleep, and I'm like completely wiped out right now. So, and that I'm not walking home. Somebody's gonna look back for drinks. This is so freaking cold. Yeah.
Would you give out the medicine for free?
It depends. I mean, like, yes, I would if they got addicted to it, and I could actually accommodate some sort of servicing element to that. I mean, a lot of people do that. That's just a monetization strategy. You know, but you can't give me something for free that costs you too much that you can't monetize later. So free is actually a mysterious thing. There's nothing for free. So I would give away free iPads on those menus because I know SEO menus are the highest search rate things in the world on SEO for local advertising, so I can get all their advertising money. Which is like, look, you got free iPads, but I now own your entire marketing budget. I doubt so highly that your $15,000 menu number is true. I bet it's $1,000. I think the entire linchpin of your business is wrong. Honestly. It's a great idea, but you have 8 customers. I bet if you gave those things away for free, even one of them, and said, we're going to learn your marketing, we're going to learn your SEO and your menus, which is how everybody finds you. And by the way, you're going to pay me $300 a month to do it. And by the way, it's a free iPad, and you should make more money doing that. So the boys are like, what business are you really in? Are you marketing business? Or a menu business like this? And I think those are things you really need to be true. They got to be true, right? It can't be wishful thinking. Make sense? So it's a great idea, but do you give away for free? Is it really, what business are you truly in? Those businesses suck at marketing. They do. That's why single platform got bought. It's because they figured out menus for the search engine and they became a marketing platform for the restaurants. You're doing the exact same thing. You should copy that.
So you talked about hiring mistakes.
Fatal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are some of the key misalignment of culture or different visions or lack of, what are kind of the key reasons why someone turns out to be a wrong fit?
Well, typically because you're super bad at identifying talent or actually not hiring them. So I'm going to give you two of the best interview questions ever, okay? So here's the first one. And the first one is, so by the time it gets to you, that talent gets to you, they should have been, discovered by a couple people. So you gotta ask them this, which is like, very pensively, and I guarantee they've never asked before, which is, what about your last job did people most misunderstand about you? And think about that. It's going to tell you, and by the time it's out of your mouth, they can't put it back. It's going to tell you, well, this is why everyone hated me in my last company. Honestly, it just pours out, and then literally then they're like, I cannot believe I just said that. And also, that's the most incredible question, I forget what I just said. Like, that question is so piercing because you're going to realize what they're successful or not in the last company. The second question is the Tony Hsieh question, which is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how lucky a person are you, and why? And so there's a bunch of there's this kaleidoscope of HR rules you're not allowed to ask, and that one blows the whole thing up. Because they'll tell you, I'm a 6, I'm a 7, I'm an 8, I'm a 9, 10. You cannot hire anybody that say 8 or above. 10 is a little too unrealistic. 9, 8 or 9 are perfect. Below 8, forget it. As a person who has like their life, the karma's wrong. They struggle, right? There's wind in their face. You need lucky people everywhere, right? And what they'll tell you is, they just keep saying, well, why? Just keep asking, well, why? Well, why? Well, why? They'll tell you like, well, it's my parents, it's my religion, it's my good fortune, and it's just like they spill their guts and you discover all the illegal questions. Those two things are basically the only thing. If you look at their skills, past, present, future. I also like to hire people who are doing that job for the second time. Not the third time or the first time, the second time. Because someone has paid for all the mistakes that you're to get, by the third time they're bored. So within those things, you can, and the other key is, always do off-resume reference checks. Always. Like, go to Facebook, see their friend, call their friend. Call the LinkedIn profile. Like, I mean, that's really the only way you can do it because they're never going to tell you. And I always just tell them, like, I will discover the truth, so you just should tell me now. Not so much because I think I'm trying to vilify their gift, because I always say, because I want them to be successful in my company. So I need to know the MRI of your giftedness before you get here. So don't like call your friend and give you a bunch of bullshit because first of all, I'll know and I will discover because I'm very direct. Secondly, is I'm doing that so you can be great here. So you're not doing it. So we already have tools like the 7-1 rule and things to solve that. But those things, off-resume check, those two questions, I mean, you will find the truth about it. If you don't do those things, you're completely foolish. Like, take the time and do it. Always, always do it. And here's another point is that don't be impressed by things you don't understand. I mean, you get someone who has a great resume and talking about code, you don't know code, you should just straight face. Like you're not even qualified to know if that person's any good. They can be speaking to you in French or Hindi, you would be like, oh my God, it's so amazing, right? And you can be a complete idiot. Right? So recognize that. You need qualified people to qualify your people before they ever get to you. Yeah, last question.
What about hunger? Like, is that something that you...
Well, so burning drive, totally. That burning drive should be, so you should overweight burning drive. That should be part of the things that you discover with the lucky question. You know, burning drive, you can overcome a lot of things, but it cannot overcome stupidity or incompetence. Last question. How does this work?
You come back next year.
What?
You come back next year and bring some of your friends
What's that, my friend? Oh, yeah. All right. Are you like a lone banker in the room? Like you're like, you used to give me like an intervention.
Well, I have like a day job. I work for the mail, so.
I'm just kidding.
Hey guys, I figured we'd end at the beginning. You spoke about finding your innate gift to the world.
Yep.
Can you just speak about that for a few seconds, and then we'll go to trade?
Yeah. I hope you guys feel like I have been talking about that because it's the #1 thing. Like, it has to be #1 thing about you, it has to be #1 thing about the company, it is your differentiation. And it goes back to like the point, which is you can't bolt things on to something that's not true. So like pivoting strategies that aren't true, adding functionality is not true, adding partnerships are not true. Like if it's not true, it's not true. Like you can't fake that thing, right? That you to the team, to the marketplace thing, that axle that everything orbits around, that has to be true. So if it's not true in your spirit because you're not doing what's innately right, it will not work. You'll end up in a, like, one of the worst things that can happen to you is you go build a $10 million company and it's on literally a path to nowhere. Like, that's bad. You have a successful company that's a zombie. I have friends who have a $100 million business, 2 of them in New York, $100 million per-year business, raking in with no outcome, and they hate it. They're stuck. Done. That's their whole career. So you know, unless you want to do this for the rest of your life, which in some cases you do, but you've got to create something that is innately you, and in this case it's not. And you can be like a walking zombie, and you have this big successful company. It's literally the path to nowhere. What do you do? So if it's innate, then that's great. That's actually great. Yeah, should. If it's not, it's great. But it's not, then you really have to study that because the worst thing is you trap your life, you trap the talent, and there's no outcome that allows it to truly unlock the value, if that makes sense. So, I mean, there's multiple ways you can define success. But if you violate that truth, you're going to end up in trouble, like that person said. I'm kidding around the whole super thing. All right, what else? Anything else on it? Okay, thank you so much. I really.
We got to do way better than that. That was really lame clapping. So all right, we normally have a really fancy phone game, but there was a technical difficulty, so we have a less fancy phone game, and this is how we're going to choose the winner for that fancy trophy. So take out your phones and text one of those numbers. Can you read that, hopefully? Make it full screen. There you go. And we'll leave this open for a minute. Let them all down, guys. Let them down.
This is based on the idea and not the actual presentation.
It's voting for anything you want. So send to, there you go. That's what we're looking for. Give it like a minute. It's a long time, but it's quiet. Anybody else want to ask one more question, David, while we let this run? Yeah, hurry up.
It's a really bad last question, but did you say Jay Walker had a name in his library?
Yes.
Totally.
He is. It's such an incredibly. It's just a stupefying experience.
Put those votes in. We're done in like 3 minutes. You gotta go right now. I'm talking to you. We're almost done. It's okay. Everybody else leaves, that's what happens. It does not look like we have much of a competition. So congratulations to Yafi, good job. Thank you. All right, so if you are interested in presenting your company here, where's Mitt? Somewhere there, find him. He does a lot of the hard work to get these guys up here. But before you find him, apply at njtech.me/apply. We're big fans of getting things through forms. It's really the only way it's going to happen. So we got 2 upcoming events. They should actually be April, not March. But so March 2nd, we have the NJ Tech Springtime Social at Teak with the easy buddy. Sit down. We're almost done. Come on. A little respect for startups. Springtime Social next month, April 2nd at Teak with the NJ Tech gals, which should be fun. And April 15th, we have this same event with Brad Feld Another book you should read if you haven't read it, or check out his blogs. Should be a very engaging event as well. It takes a lot of work to get these things to happen. I want to thank everybody who does it, Sharon, Don, David, round of applause. Thanks again, everybody, for coming. Please, how many people, raise your hand if you're coming back next month? Yeah. You see, now you're all like 80% more likely to come back. So I'll see you next month. Hopefully I'll see you guys at Trinity. Thanks a lot.